Hello everyone, welcome to episode 9 of A Practical Guide to the Tower. About 5 months ago now, I uploaded a video where I talked about my experience making a transition from EHP to Glass Cannon, and that video I think has the most views on this channel. So it's a video that's very dear to me. What I thought I would do in this particular video is, 5 months ago, a bulk of players were probably still using an EHP related build, but in the recent few months, I noticed that more and more players are now working on damage related stuff, and so probably have if not already made a complete transition to Glass Cannon, are in the midst of making a transition to Glass Cannon. So what I thought I would do for this video is to share with you guys in a similar fashion, the experience that I have had over the past 5 months in this Glass Cannon farming strategy, and just talk you guys through the various issues that I encountered, so that in the event that you are finding yourself in a similar position, you might have some guidance on how to go about addressing the problem that you are facing. So without further ado, let's get started with this video. Alright, so quick recap. Back then I was farming tier 11, I had just made the switch to tier 14. In terms of the stage of progression that I was at GT plus 10, 63 seconds of duration. And if I remember correctly, the first mastery that I maxed out was Recovery Package Chance Mastery. That was, and in my opinion, is still the best first mastery to unlock, because at the end of the day, this is a game about acquiring resources, and the sooner you get your recovery package mastery unlocked, the more reroll shards you will be, the more shards of each module type you would acquire in a single day. So the longer you hold off this mastery, the longer that gap will be between you and someone who has unlocked, and that gap is not something that you can catch up on. So it's something that the sooner you unlock it, the better it is. Even at base level, it does provide a good chunk of shards of each type of module every day. So it's something that I would certainly encourage most players to just get as quickly as possible. Right, aside from that, now let's get back to the main agenda. So my initial goal was to transition into tier 14. Back then, when I was in tier 11, I don't think it was possible to EHP farm tier 12 reliably at my stage of progression. This was with module levels about 170 of each type. So the only viable strategy that I sort of had at that time was, I had to transition out of EHP and into Glass Cannon, and the only way that I knew how to do that was, Glass Cannon probably requires a lot of damage, so I'm going to go into damage. So with that being said, the first set of the first set of masteries that I unlocked was Damage Plus, Demon Mode Plus, and Super Tower Plus. Those three just for the damage related stuff. The next issue that I encountered was, in general, even with a lot of damage, tier 14 is probably going to give me a much lower wave count than tier 11, and we do need to worry about hitting spawn caps, because in tier 11 I was able to get to say 9,000 waves. Spawn caps would cap out at wave 6500, so it's very unlikely that I can get to wave 6500 in tier 14. So my next mastery that I unlocked was Wave Accelerator Mastery, and also Intro Sprint Mastery, just because the initial waves are very short, and if I'm going to be doing multiple runs a day, I want to sort of get out of that low enemy spawn period of the game as quickly as possible. So that's my rationale behind these 5 masteries. Now, unlocking them is one thing. The major roadblock that I faced is that I never had enough coin. With GT at 10 and 63 seconds of duration, at tier 11 at that time, I was probably making about 2Q a day, thereabouts, of coin. And realistically, that was only enough for me to bring up 1 mastery at a time. So what I did was, well, I would just slot in damage, get 1 level into it, slot in demon mode, get 1 level into it, wave accelerator 1 level, intro sprint 1 level, and I'll just cycle back through these masteries. Around the time where I had damage and demon mode at level 7, that's when I worked on my super tower mastery, and I think I permanently leveled it to max before I returned to damage and demon mode. After those 2 were done, or after those 3 masteries were done, I then went on to complete my wave accelerator and intro sprint mastery. This was my rationale for why I chose this path. Wave accelerator and intro sprint are really nice masteries to have, but for the most part, intro sprint is more of a quality of life improvement. Sure, it makes the run shorter, which means that you compress your coin gains a lot quicker, but at the time I was also having to worry about tournament performance, so I didn't really find that having a shorter tournament run was helping with my coin too much, but having more damage was certainly able to carry me further into tournaments. So I decided to go for a more damage focused approach on my masteries before I went for wave accelerator and intro sprint. Right, so then of course there was that roadblock, right, where I never had enough coins. So midway through this entire process, somewhere along the line, I was still working on just putting 1 mastery at a time. I believe it was after Super Tower Plus was done, I finally caved and I saved up 1250 stones. I unlocked Coin Plus. And looking back now, I think this mastery is really underrated, because what Coin Plus basically did is it gives me 30% more to my coin multiplier. And mind you, all of this was done in tier 11, right? So tier 11, the base multiplier is already quite low. Just having unlocked Coin Plus and working religiously on it, the moment I maxed it out, it allowed me to permanently let not only 2 masteries at a time, but I could bring it up to about 4 masteries. And when I finally moved into tier 14, I was reliably able to permanently let 5 masteries. In addition to that, I also unlocked my enemy balance plus. Just because masteries take up so much time, I wanted to get the labs done as quickly as possible, and to do that I needed all my labs to be at 5x speed. So enemy balance plus sort of helped with that process. So eventually, I can't remember the exact chronological order of events right now, but eventually the initial set of all of these masteries were done. This brought me to around wave 4000 in tier 14 on most runs. And it might seem like, oh, I've invested damage demon mode super tower plus and I've only managed to get to tier 14 wave 4000. It was quite underwhelming overall in terms of the progress that I actually experienced as opposed to what I thought I would have experienced. So my next goal was, well, I need more damage, because going to wave 4000 with wave accelerator maxed, it's going to cap the spawns at wave 3250, which means I only have about 750 waves at max spawn before I die and I have to restart the run. So, you know, with that goal in mind, my next two ultimate weapons were Ultimate Weapon Crit Plus and Berserker Plus. And just working on those two masteries together, it allowed me to, let me pull up those two masteries. Enemy Balance Plus over here, sorry, not Enemy Balance Plus, Berserker Plus and Ultimate Weapon Crit Plus. Working on these two masteries, and in the process of working on those masteries, don't forget that Recovery Package Chance is also allowing me to level up my module levels, bringing it up to like 180, 190 thereabouts. And just having, instead of having to permanently lab 5 masteries, I now only permanently lab 2 masteries, which allowed me to funnel a lot more coins into my workshop enhancements. Just doing all of that brought my wave count steadily up towards 7,000, I believe is the case. So if we look at my tier 14, yeah, about 7.2k waves. Now, so I believe this was, up to this stage, this entire process took me about 3 months to complete. And at this stage, I thought, well, if I'm doing 7,000 waves in tier 14, maybe it's time for me to try to move into tier 15. And if you look at the battle conditions between tier 14 and tier 15, they are relatively similar to one another. And so I just went in straight to tier 15. I think initially it got me to wave 5,000 or so. And again, I would eventually not be able to kill the enemies and die from there. So a major issue that I faced at this time was that my chrono field or chrono loop was a bit too weak. At that time I was only running CF plus 3. So what I did as I moved from tier 14 to tier 15, I ended up getting 2 levels into CF plus, so that brought me up to CF plus 5. And I also unlocked the tier 18 wave 1000 milestone, which, if you are not aware, gives you this extra lab to work on. It's the battle condition reduction lab. But the first few levels are relatively cheap, and I got the first 5 levels done within the first week of unlocking it or something like that. And just having a 10% reduction in your battle conditions allowed me to gain like another 400-500 waves in my tier 15. Now at that stage, the major issue that I was facing was that towards the end of my runs, not only am I not able to kill bosses because my CF plus is relatively weak, my orbs don't really hit the boss for very much. As a result of that, the boss comes in and hits my tower, so I lose energy shield stacks there. But also, I'm no longer able to kill ray enemies because they spin a bit too fast and they nut on my tower, and I lose energy shield stacks even faster. So that was a sign to me that I needed to unlock Nuke Mastery and Slow Aura Mastery. And for those of you not aware of what this does, it delays the attack speed of enemies basically. And so it makes the rays become a lot less dangerous. Now, once I had unlocked those 2 masteries, then I think it was enough to take me from wave 5,000-ish in tier 15 up to wave 6,000. And I'm sure I can go back to tier 15 now and do a little bit better in tier 15. But I thought, well, you know what, I think it is time to switch to tier 16. So I was really only in tier 15 for about a month or so. And I would say that the jump between tier 14 and tier 15 isn't too big. However, the jump from tier 15 to tier 16 becomes a lot bigger. And so the reason for that, I think, is due to a difference in the battle conditions. And the major issue that I was facing is not so much the alt and death ray resistance, it's more of the protector ultimate battle condition. So essentially with protector ultimate, what happens is if the protector ultimate spawns, especially at the start of the run where a lot of your controls are not in place yet, it's just going to bring the boss and the enemies straight into your tower, and you're going to lose your second win immediately, especially if there are ranged enemies there. So at this stage, I needed to figure out a way to protect my tower against the enemies. The damage aspect of things, actually between tier 15 and tier 16, my damage has not changed by much. The only bump up in damage that I get nowadays is from doing my damage labs, as well as from my module levels. But the damage gain is not very significant, and if we compare the base damage that I have at trillion damage compared to the enemy health here, the enemy health is orders of magnitude ahead. So this base number over here being low is not necessarily a good indicator that you can't kill enemies at higher health orders of magnitude. So the damage didn't really change by much for me at this stage. However, what I needed in my tower was to get more controls, and the way that I went about doing it was to get my black hole duration. Maybe it's easier to see it from the module itself. So my black hole duration is a base of 32 seconds. At 32 seconds of black hole duration, when I switch to black hole digester, what essentially happens is I no longer get permanent black hole with my galaxy compressor. And so even with the perk, it's 44 seconds, and that results in 1 entire second's worth of real time in between my black hole activations, because of 6x game speed, right? So every time my black hole falls, I take a poke from some ranged enemy somewhere, and the way that I got around it was, I was just, this is by no means the substat that I wanted, but I was just clicking reroll on my multiverse nexus when it hit level 200, and this was the first ancestral substat that popped up. So I got this 4 seconds of black hole duration, and so I was like, okay, you know what, given how rare ancestral substats come in, I'm just going to keep this substat in for the time being until I can manually upgrade my black hole duration. Now, at this stage, my black hole duration is 36 seconds. With the perk, it's 48 seconds. 48 seconds on a 50 seconds cooldown, that gives me 2 seconds of downtime. As you will see, when my black hole activation stops now, there would be a split second where I am potentially vulnerable to getting hit by enemies, but it's significantly reduced the amount of chip damage that I have. Now, certainly having permanent black hole is going to be really, really nice, because I no longer will take any chip damage from any of these ranged enemies, and Protector Ultimate will be a non-affix for me. But I think my stones are better spent elsewhere at this stage. So, right, I guess I went off on a tangent again. Between tier 15 and tier 16, the only real difference that I had in terms of my farming strategy was to just focus on getting that extra 4 seconds of black hole duration. And throughout this entire process from tier 15 to tier 16, it's also worth noting that my poison swarm was developed a little bit. So these are my poison swarm stats. I have about 85 seconds of duration and 50 seconds cooldown. So that gives me about approximately 2 permanent swarms. In terms of the damage, it's not very high, but also to reduce the amount of chip damage that I'm taking, I also enable my poison swarm stun. My poison swarm stun labs are currently at 28. It's something that I would like to max out at some point down the line. So just having this extra controls from more black hole and more poison swarm stun, I think those were the 2 factors that allowed me to make the tier 16 transition. So other than that, I don't... Oh, right, and there is a reason why I'm not trying to funnel my stones into black hole duration at this stage. Now you might think that, oh, you know, he's got pretty decent coin economy and so on, and yeah, for the most part, like, I think my coin gain is pretty nice on a day-to-day basis. However, what you would notice is for the first 200 levels, if you have GT plus 10 in your module levels, if you have GT plus 10, it's actually not very pricey to get your modules up to 201. Check it out. At 201, it's 2.62 little Q for a level, which isn't too bad given you will be farming like Qs a day, right? Like 10 20 Q a day. So it's not very pricey. But beyond 201, the module cost is going to jump up by a very large amount between each level. So if we look at 207 to 208, it's 26.3 Q. And this is with the lab module coin cost reduction lab maxed. If we look at 209 to 210, it's 41.1 Q. So it's very exponential in its gain, right? From 201 to 207, that's 6 levels. It goes from 2Q to 26Q. But then now it's 2 levels difference. It's 26 to 41Q. Now another 2 levels difference, 211 to 212, it's 59.5Q. And it's getting to a point where it's really pricey for me. So at this stage of farming where I'm at, even though yes, having more damage is good, and looking at my card mastery labs over here, my card masteries over here, you know, stuff like range mastery would be good for me. Crit chance mastery, I should probably get it as well. Plasma cannon mastery would be good for dealing with elites, I think. Death Ray mastery would be good for protector ultimates, since I don't have, or protectors in general, since I don't have chain lightning plus. So you know, there are certainly a lot of areas where I can get more damage and more progression in terms of my farming. But because of how expensive things are at the moment, my primary focus at this stage is purely just econ. And I guess once I've settled my golden tower plus and golden tower duration, you know, getting it 75 to 80 seconds of duration, once I've settled those two, I think that's when I would be focusing more on damage again, and hopefully that will bring me to a higher wave count. Now where I'm at currently, 5 months in, I've basically made a transition from about wave 3000 in tier 14 all the way to about 5.5k in tier 16. So I guess this is the content of the video. I hope that you might have found it helpful. It's a reflection video, but it's also one that I guess if you are making the same progress or progressing in the same way as I am, then you might find that you are facing similar problems. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how to tackle the various problems that you face as they present themselves. With that in mind, I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, do hit the like. If you haven't already, do subscribe. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.